All right, guys, here it is. The start of the Route 66 trip. So behind me is the Buckingham Fountain. It's one of the largest fountains in the world. And I guess it's supposed to represent Lake Michigan, which is right over there. Kind of wanted to put my motorcycle right next to that, but parking for an hour and a half for me was 10 bucks. Pretty sure I'd have to pay a lot more to park there. So the start of Route 66 is actually a half a mile away. But I think it's easier to walk to than to take my bike. So we're gonna walk there, then come back, then get started. Let's go walk. There it is, beginning of Route 66. Founded in November of 1926 and decommissioned in 1985. A small sign for such an important road. I would imagine in 1926 it was probably a lot more important than it is now. But it's important that yahoos like me who are gonna go ride it right now. Let's get started. Was challenging for me. It was probably the most dangerous area I've ever ridden my motorcycle in. It was a lot of stop and go traffic, and the drivers didn't seem to notice me at all. I've never felt more invisible on my motorcycle than I did riding in Chicago. And my bike didn't like it either. My bike got really warm. And when my bike gets super warm, I get a headlight trouble code and I have to use my FP3 to remove it. It was also mentally taxing to ride through Chicago. So by the end of the day yesterday, I planned on doing a motovlog, but I was just too exhausted to do it. I mean, I felt the effects of a long ride, but I've felt that before, but yesterday it was mentally exhausting to ride through Chicago. Because of everything I needed to pay attention to in Chicago, it was challenging. Mentally challenging. So I really focused on getting out of Chicago rather quickly. And therefore I took less breaks than I should have. Just a couple of observations about the ride yesterday that I'll talk about, and to do so I'm gonna kinda ride up on the grass up here. This may seem kind of weird, but I kind of want to show you guys something. So it may seem weird that I'm riding on this road, but at several spots along the route, there are these roads like this where grass is growing in the cracks and it doesn't look like it's in use anymore. What I'm riding on now is called a ghost road. This was part of Route 66 at one time. And the road obviously is to our left here, but nobody repairs this road anymore. It's just here, and it would cost them money to remove this road, so it just sits. Eventually the weeds will probably take over, but I would imagine there's some grooming here because the weeds would really take over if somebody didn't at least trim them. Kind of like this here. This is about as much as off-road riding I will ever do on my Harley Iron 883. Paying homage to Dan the fireman and his Saturday scramblers. But what's cool about this road is, yes, it's not being used anymore. It's kind of interesting to think how this road used to be much wider. It used to be 4 lanes, right? And you can't see it here. We'll go ride by. I'll have to go back because there's a bit of a ditch here. But up there is a sign that says road ends. This is both fascinating and sad, right? Because this road used to be something much bigger than it is now. And that's kind of what I saw in Chicago. So I started out in Chicago. The sign for Route 66 is no larger than a small speed limit sign on a country road. It would have been cool if in Grant Park they had like more of an homage to Route 66, but it's just a small sign on Adams Street, 4 blocks away from Grant Park. And this road here kind of makes me think of that too. This is fascinating, but it's also a little bit sad because this shows what the road once was. And obviously the road is not as important logistically and financially as it once was. But I feel it still deserves preserving, not only just for historical purposes, but for financial purposes. We'll talk more about that on our ride today. I got pancakes and coffee on my mind, or maybe some sausage and eggs. So while riding Route 66 from Chicago to where I am now in Dwight, Illinois, there were 3 things that I saw. The first was things like the launching pad where the Gemini Giant is. The business owners have created something that makes it interesting to stop, take a break, look and see what they've got, you know? That brings tourists, and that place was packed. You can see the photograph of my Harley in front of the Gemini Giant on Instagram. But the building inside, which was filled with just like kitschy stuff, was absolutely packed. And the owners were like, make sure you sign our guest book, and they're really super friendly. The other thing I saw was businesses just like that had closed down. A lot of old boarded up buildings that just couldn't make a go of it after interstates, like around here, Interstate 55, was built, which went around these towns. So some people just couldn't make a go of it. Here it says where the road ends. And that's not to say that they didn't have great ideas. Maybe they closed because of retirement and somebody didn't want to continue it, but that son or daughter or relative didn't want to continue that business because it's not easy having a business in an area like this. Sometimes you don't have the support of the community in much larger cities or in areas that are more populated or where more tourists come. The other interesting thing I saw was businesses that were built probably within the last 15 or 20 years. So like mini malls, right? There was a lot of those that were closed down as well. Just like entire strip malls with no businesses in it at all. For lease and for sale signs all over them. It made for like an interesting historical timeline from the heyday, businesses like the launching pad still are doing what they did years and years ago. And other businesses that aren't able to make a go of it. And still yet others that were built very recently that are just decimated because tourists have not come. So here's where I'm getting breakfast at the old Route 66 family restaurant. Hi.
Copy?
Please, yes, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
We still have our stuff on board there for breakfast. We got a chop steak, we got a sausage and cheese omelet, 3 French toast with bacon or sausage, and we have biscuits and gravy.
You know, I don't even need to take too long here. I want the biscuits and gravy.
Okay.
Yeah. So this restaurant here is in Dwight, Illinois, and this place is exactly what I'm talking about, where they have it figured out. This is kind of in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and this is my second time here. I came here for dinner last night, and I'm coming here for breakfast again because the food was so good. The people are super nice, and the food's really good, but they have it figured out. They know how to bring people to the area. If you've watched my Driftless Region video where I'm talking about exactly this, where the interstate routes traffic around the cities, decimating the businesses. Mount Horeb near Madison, Wisconsin, I talk about in the Driftless Region. They've taken the culture of the area and they've used that to their advantage. Places like this are doing the same thing. They're avoiding having their businesses closed and they're thriving here. Although, I'm no spring chicken. But I think I'm the youngest one here, which I'm cool with. But I have biscuits and gravy coming. I can see that plate a mile away. I'm so hungry and this is gonna be so tasty. Thank you. I'm not gonna make you watch me eat. Well, mostly. Just wanna say a little bit more about using a Sportster long distance. So I'm a firm believer in using what you have to your advantage. I also believe you can figure out how to make things work when you need to. Now, is a Sportster a great bike for long distance? It will do it. It has the capability. Anybody who tells you otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. Are there better bikes out there? Heck yeah. I'd much rather be doing this trip on a 2018 Heritage Softail. But that doesn't mean my enjoyment is any less on the Sportster during this trip. More challenging? Yes. But as many of you know already, I've talked about this a lot. Life throws challenges at you. It all depends on how you look at it, how you use it to your advantage, turn it on its head, making it what you want it to be. Basically, you owning the challenge rather than the challenge owning you. I mean, come on. I'm enjoying good coffee, biscuits and gravy that cost me less than $9 in the middle of nowhere. And it's beautiful here. People are friendly, the food is good, and the coffee is even better.
How's the biscuits and gravy?
Really good. You knew the exact opportunity when I put food in my mouth, so I couldn't say. I could put my thumb up though. It's really good. Thank you.